The neon lights of Seoul glimmered like restless stars, but Amara didn't see them. She was too focused on the tray trembling in her hands. One wrong step, and the steaming bowls of kimchi jjigae would spill across the floor of the restaurant. She wasn't supposed to be here. Not in Korea. Not in this life. Yet here she was, a Nigerian girl thousands of miles from home, serving strangers who barely looked at her except to demand food quickly. Some customers laughed at her accent. Others ignored her entirely. But tonight was different. A hush swept through the restaurant as the glass doors slid open. In walked a young man in a tailored suit, the kind of elegance that could silence a room. His sharp jawline, neatly combed black hair, and piercing gaze made him stand out instantly. He wasn't just another customer, he was someone important. The whispers began almost immediately. That's Kang So-yoon, the heir. The billionaire's son. Amara's breath caught, and for a moment, her grip on the tray loosened. She barely managed to steady it before disaster struck. So-yoon's eyes landed on her, just a second, no more. But in that second, the weight of every secret, every expectation, and every danger that came with his family's name pressed into the air between them. The tray in Amara's hands wobbled again. This time, one bowl tilted dangerously close to spilling straight toward the billionaire's son. The steaming bowl of soup tilted, and Amara gasped, but before it splashed onto his expensive suit, a steady hand caught the tray. So-yoon's hand. For a moment, time froze. His grip was firm, his eyes unreadable, his voice calm yet commanding. "Careful!" The entire restaurant went silent, watching. Amara stammered an apology, cheeks burning with shame, but instead of anger, So-yoon studied her with an expression that almost looked intrigued. Hours later, after the restaurant closed, Amara was startled to see a sleek black car parked outside. The tinted window rolled down. So-yoon's face appeared. "You," he said simply. "Get in." Every instinct screamed no, but her exhausted body betrayed her. Something in his tone made refusal impossible. That night changed everything. The next morning, Amara stood at the gates of the Kang estate, a sprawling mansion that looked more like a palace. So-yoon had arranged for her to work there as a maid. Her wages would be better, her conditions safer. At least, that's what he said. But the moment she entered, two pairs of eyes locked onto her. Mr. and Mrs. Kang. Their stares were knives, cold, sharp, unwelcoming. "Who is this?" Mrs. Kang's voice dripped with disdain. So-yoon answered calmly, "She works here now." Amara bowed politely, but the response was icy. "She doesn't belong here," Mr. Kang muttered under his breath. And in that instant, Amara realized she hadn't stepped into safety. She had stepped into a cage. Amara's first morning in the Kang estate felt like stepping onto enemy ground. The polished marble floors gleamed so brightly they reflected her trembling hands as she set down the silver tray. Every movement felt watched, judged. Mrs. Kang sat in the grand dining room, her pearls glinting under the chandelier. Her smile was thin, cold. "Amara, isn't it? From Nigeria, yes?" Amara nodded, bowing slightly. "Yes, ma'am." Mrs. Kang's voice softened, but her words were knives wrapped in silk. "How fascinating. I do hope you can adapt to our ways. This isn't like the little restaurants you're used to." A chuckle escaped her lips, and Mr. Kang lowered his newspaper just enough to smirk. Amara's cheeks burned, but she stayed silent, gripping the tray tighter. Later, as she polished the antique vases in the hall, whispers drifted through the walls. Mr. Kang's voice sharp, dismissive. "She's not fit to be here. What will people think if they see her?" Mrs. Kang replied smoothly, "Don't worry. She'll realize her place soon enough." Amara froze, her chest tightening. They didn't even care if she heard. To them, she was invisible, yet somehow still a threat. That evening, So-yoon appeared by the staircase. His eyes lingered on her, unreadable, as if he knew the weight of every word his parents had spoken. "You'll get used to it," he said quietly. But Amara wasn't sure she ever could. Dinner at the Kang estate was a ceremony. Long mahogany table, crystal glasses, dishes arranged like artwork. Amara stood by the wall, hands folded, pretending not to hear the laughter that didn't include her. Mrs. Kang glanced at her plate, then at Amara. "The soup is lukewarm. Did no one teach you proper timing?" Amara bowed quickly. "I'm sorry, ma'am. I'll do better." "Better?" Mrs. Kang's tone dripped with disdain. "Some things cannot be polished. A diamond and a stone will never shine the same." Laughter echoed. Amara lowered her gaze, swallowing the lump in her throat. But then, a voice cut through the air. "It's fine, mother. The soup is fine." Every head turned. Sojun, usually silent at the table, placed his spoon down with calm finality. His gaze didn't waver. Mrs. Kang blinked, taken aback. "Sojun." "I said it's fine," he repeated, softer but firm. The silence that followed was heavier than any insult. Amara dared to glance up. His expression was unreadable, cold even, but his words had shielded her like armor. After dinner, as she cleared the plates, Amara felt his eyes linger, just once, before he rose and left the room. He hadn't smiled, hadn't spoken kindly to her directly. Yet for the first time since entering this house, she didn't feel completely alone. The clatter of dishes filled the quiet kitchen. Amara scrubbed the porcelain hard, trying to wash away the sting of Mrs. Kang's words. Her hands ached, but her chest ached more. She didn't hear him enter. "You let them see you break." Sojun's voice cut sharply from behind. Amara spun, nearly dropping a glass. I wasn't." "You were," he said, stepping closer. His expression remained cool, but his eyes flickered with something else. "They'll use it against you if you show weakness." Her throat tightened. "I'm not like you. I can't pretend I don't feel anything." For the first time, his jaw slackened, as if her words had pierced somewhere deep. He leaned against the counter, arms crossed. "Pretending is survival here." Amara hesitated, searching his face. "Then why defend me at dinner, if survival is silence?" The question hung in the air. His gaze locked on hers, unreadable, too long, too intense. Finally, he turned away, his voice low. "Because you didn't deserve it." Her breath caught. It was the closest thing to kindness he had ever shown her. Before she could reply, footsteps echoed in the hall. Sojun straightened instantly, his mask sliding back into place. "Don't read too much into it," he muttered, before walking out, leaving her with trembling hands and a racing heart. Alone again, Amara touched the edge of the counter where he had stood. For the first time, she wondered if beneath his cold exterior was a man as trapped as she was. The chandeliers glittered above as the Kang family hosted a private dinner with their business allies. Amara had been ordered to serve at the long, polished table. Her hands shook as she balanced the tray, feeling every stare burn into her skin. Mrs. Kang's voice rang sharp as glass. "Be careful, girl. We wouldn't want you spilling something on our honored guests." The guests chuckled politely, but the mockery was clear. Amara swallowed her shame and poured the wine. She was almost at the last seat when Mr. Kang's voice boomed. "Tell me, Amara, do girls like you dream of marrying above your station?" The room went silent. Heat rushed to her cheeks, her throat dry. Her hands trembled so violently the wineglass tilted. Red liquid splashed across the white tablecloth. Gasps erupted. Mrs. Kang smirked. "Exactly as I said. She doesn't belong here." Amara froze, her heart hammering, humiliation scorching her. She expected laughter. She expected Sojun to look away. Instead, his chair scraped back sharply. "Enough!" His voice was firm, louder than she had ever heard it. Every eye turned toward him. "She works harder than anyone here. If respect means tearing someone down, perhaps this family should redefine the word. The table went rigid. Mrs. Kang's smile faltered, the room thick with tension. Amara stood still, her breath caught, staring at the man who had always been cold but, in that moment, chose to shield her. The dinner ended in icy silence. Guests excused themselves quickly, whispering behind polite smiles. Amara kept her head down as she cleared the table, but every nerve in her body felt the weight of Mrs. Kang's piercing glare. When the last servant left, the storm broke. "Sojun," Mr. Kang's voice thundered through the dining hall. "You embarrassed this family in front of our partners. For a maid?" "She is not just a maid," Sojun snapped, his jaw tight. "She's human, deserving of dignity." Mrs. Kang stepped forward, her words sharp as knives. "Dignity? Girls like her come from dirt. She will never rise above it. And if you continue this fascination, you will destroy everything we've built." Amara froze just outside the door, her hands gripping the silver tray so tightly her knuckles turned white. Her chest rose and fell with shallow breaths, each word cutting deeper than the last. "Why do you hate her so much?" Sojun demanded. There was silence. Then Mrs. Kang's voice dropped low. "Because she reminds us of a mistake we buried long ago, one that must never resurface." Amara's blood ran cold. A mistake? What did that mean? She staggered back, her heartbeat pounding in her ears. The tray slipped from her hands, clattering to the floor. The sound shattered the moment. Sojun turned sharply toward the door, eyes wide. "Amara." But she was already running down the hall, her world spinning with questions she was terrified to answer. Amara didn't stop running until she reached the servants' quarters at the far end of the estate. Her chest heaved, her palms trembling as Mrs. Kang's words replayed in her head. "A mistake we buried long ago." What mistake? She pressed her forehead against the cool wooden door, but the sound of hurried footsteps made her jolt. It was Hana, one of the older maids, her face pale. "You heard them, didn't you?" Hana whispered, glancing over her shoulder nervously. Amara's throat tightened. "What do they mean? Why do they hate me so much?" Hana hesitated, her lips pressed thin. For a moment, it looked like she might speak, but then her eyes flicked toward the shadows at the end of the corridor. Someone was watching. "Not here," Hana murmured urgently. "You must leave before it's too late." Before Amara could respond, Mrs. Kang's cold voice sliced through the air. "Hana, Amara, what are you whispering about?" Amara's heart plummeted. Mrs. Kang stood at the end of the corridor, her eyes sharp, a smile too thin to be kind. "Back to work," she ordered smoothly, though her gaze lingered on Amara like a predator marking prey. As Hana bowed and hurried off, Mrs. Kang stepped closer, lowering her voice so only Amara could hear. "You don't belong here. Remember your place, or you'll regret ever stepping into this house." Amara swallowed hard, her knees weak, but deep inside, something sparked. For the first time, fear wasn't stronger than her need for the truth. The night at the Kang estate was colder than usual, the silence thick enough to choke on. Amara sat on her narrow bed, staring at the flickering lamp. Hana's warning replayed in her mind, "Leave before it's too late." But leave where? She couldn't abandon Seojun, not when she was certain his parents were hiding something about her. A sudden knock at her door made her jump. She opened it cautiously. Sojun stood there, his face drawn and tense. "Pack your things," he whispered. "We're leaving tonight." Her breath caught. "What? Why?" "They know too much already," Sojun said, his jaw tight. "My parents, they'll never accept you. They'll destroy you." Amara's pulse hammered. "But why? What did I do to them?" Sojun hesitated, his hands trembling as he gripped her shoulders. "There's something I need to tell you. Something I should have told you from the beginning." Before he could continue, the sound of footsteps echoed down the hall. Both froze. The steps were slow, deliberate. Then, a voice deep, controlled. Sojun, his father called. "We need to talk." Sojun clenched his fists, his eyes burning with defiance. He turned back to Amara, voice urgent. "Stay in your room. No matter what you hear tonight, don't come out. Promise me." Amara's lips parted, but words failed. She nodded slowly, fear wrapping around her chest like chains. As Sojun stepped into the hall to face his father, Amara pressed her ear to the door. And what she heard next made her blood run cold. "You've embarrassed this family long enough," Chairman Kang's voice thundered, sharp and cruel. "Do you think we don't know who she is? That girl does not belong here." Sojun's voice came, steady but strained. "Father, I love her. That's all that should matter." Chairman Kang let out a bitter laugh. "Love? Do you know what her mother did? She worked here as a maid until she betrayed this family. A thief? A liar? And now her daughter dares to walk these halls as if she's one of us?" Amara gasped, pressing a hand to her mouth. Her mother? A thief? No, her mother had worked tirelessly, honestly. Could this be another of the chairman's manipulations? "Stop lying," Sojun snapped, his voice rising with uncharacteristic fury. Her mother raised her with dignity. "I don't care what story you twist, I will not abandon Amara." The silence that followed was suffocating. Then Chairman Kang spoke again, his words laced with venom. "If you choose her, Sojun, you choose to walk away from this family, from your inheritance, from everything I've built." Amara staggered back from the door, her heart hammering. The man she loved was being forced to make an impossible choice, family or her. Inside the hall, Sojun's voice broke through the heavy silence. "Then so be it." The hall fell silent after Sojun's declaration. But before Chairman Kang could speak, an elderly maid hurried forward, trembling. "There is something you must all know," she whispered, eyes darting to Amara. From the folds of her apron, she produced a worn locket. Inside was a faded photograph. Amara's mother, younger, radiant, standing beside Mrs. Kang. Amara's breath caught. "My mother? You knew her?" Mrs. Kang's face paled. Her fingers trembled as she took the locket. "Evelyn?" The name escaped her lips like a prayer. Chairman Kang's eyes hardened. "Enough. That woman was a scandal to this family. She dared to love where she should not, just like her daughter now." Tears welled in Amara's eyes, but Mrs. Kang shook her head fiercely. "Number. She was my dearest friend. We lost her because we forced her away, and now we're repeating the same cruelty with her child." The truth pierced through the room. Amara's search was over. Her mother had once been close to the Kang family, torn apart by the same pride that now threatened to destroy her own love. Sojun squeezed Amara's hand, his voice firm. "Then this ends here. No more secrets. No more chains." Mrs. Kang's shoulders sank, tears slipping down her cheeks. "Forgive us, Amara. Forgive me." Chairman Kang looked at his son, then at the fire in Amara's eyes, the same fire Evelyn once carried. For a long moment, his mask cracked. He sighed deeply, the fight leaving him. "If this is the path you choose," he said at last, "then go. But this time, may love win where pride once destroyed." That night, Amara left the Kang estate not as a stranger, but as a woman who had reclaimed her mother's truth and her own future. The moral lesson of this story is that true love is built on courage and honesty, not fear or pride. Secrets and prejudice can destroy families, but forgiveness and acceptance can heal even the deepest wounds.